Okay, we're good. So I'd like to thank Victor Lowe, Freeman Lau for inviting me here again. 10 years to the day since I first spoke at the Business of Design. I was one of the very first speakers here, along with Philip Stark. I'm not quite sure what I showed 10 years ago. I was trying to dig out the file and I couldn't find it in my filing system. So thank you again for inviting me. Let me go back one. So people who know me know that I'm fairly social. And we, as well as running an architectural practice in Tokyo, we also run a large art space called Super Deluxe. We have 30 events a month there. But when it started, we found it difficult to get the whole thing going. And so we invented an event which was called Pachacha. Pachacha means chit-chat in Japanese. And Pachacha. And we thought of a way, it was 9 years ago when, almost 10 years ago, we just got our first plasma display in the office. We got Keynote on the Mac because PowerPoint always crashed. And our staff, if they'd been to a factory, they'd been to a construction site, would throw a few images into the PowerPoint, into the Keynote presentation, and we'd have a little show on a Monday morning. We thought it'd be really nice if we could see what other architects were up to. And this would solve our problem for not having enough events in our art space. So we came up with this very simple format of 20 slides, 20 seconds a slide, 6 minutes, 40 seconds, and the next presenter is on. And we ran it in our art space, 2003. It ran there for 2 years. And then something quite extraordinary happened. I was speaking in Bern in Switzerland. Astrid was speaking at the LA Architecture Forum. And people really liked this format. And it was a great way to get many people into a room, and many people could show and share their work. So as I say, 20 images, 20 seconds an image, they auto-forward, 6 minutes, 40 seconds later, the next presenter can come on. So it solves the age-old problem of architects talking too much. We just drone on and on and on. And I'm going to try and keep to my time as well tonight. So off we went. So 2003, we started the event. 2005, suddenly, we were in quite a few cities. People liked the format. We came up with a handshake agreement. It's not for profit. We don't charge for this at all, still to this day. And other cities started running Pachacha nights in their town or in their universities. And by 2006, we built a website. And we thought it was quite good. We'd make it like a motorway sign. We thought that'd be really cool. Unfortunately, that kind of got a little bit out of control, the motorway sign. Nobody quite knew where they were going to go around the world, but it showed how popular this was. And today, Pachacha Night runs in Hong Kong, but it also runs in 584 other cities around the world. As I say, it's completely non-profit. We don't charge for this. We've got a couple of staff who run it. We're looking for global sponsors, by the way. But it's proved a really interesting point that there are very few places in cities where young architects and designers can show and share their work, especially if you've just finished your first house. You're probably not going to get it into a magazine. You don't have enough slides for a presentation like this. I've got probably 200 in here. And you can't afford a gallery show, but you've got 20 shots of your parents' house you've just designed for them, and Pachacha is a perfect place to show them. So we're very active across Asia. We're very active in Europe. And from our smallest event in Kampala to our largest event in Tel Aviv, 2,000 people, but they have a matinee and an evening presentation, to our most beautiful setting in Catania. Something's going odd here. Anyway, but there's a big but. I'm an architect, that's what it says there. I run an architectural practice, so that's my night job. So I'm now going to talk about my day job, and I'm going to give you a little introduction of our work, and then get on to the main story, which is our latest project in Tokyo. So, because I haven't spoken for 10 years, I thought I'd give a little retrospective. Many of you may know this project. It's a wedding chapel in northern Japan. The hotel behind it had gone bankrupt, and our client asked us to design a wedding chapel. And he said, have you ever designed a wedding chapel before? We said, no. He said, fantastic. I have no cash to promote this, so you better make it good. You better make it get in all the magazines, and it should win some competitions too. But in Japan, weddings are interesting because they're There's no religion in Japan. You've got Shinto, you've got Buddhism, you've got Christianity. You can't really start using a cross as a motif. So we used the notion of a wedding veil, and we thought the bride and groom would be standing there in front of the actor, who's the priest, but he's not really an actor, he's not really a priest. And when the groom picked up the bride's veil for the kiss, this veil would rise up. So this veil, let me turn the sound off then. This veil, and this is not a computer rendering. People said, how long did this take to render? This veil lifts up, it's 11 tons of steel. It's perforated with 4,700 holes, each of which gets an acrylic lens. And the light comes through to a fabric screen like a net curtain about 30 centimeters away from the main shell. There's a basement to the building, and 2 hydraulic rams push this forward and open it up. We thought it was going to be impossible to get this made, but 2 people from Mitsubishi Heavy Industries came around, and they said, we make stadium roofs open. This is nothing, you know. But you can see the effect there, that this 11-ton piece of steel feels like a piece of lace, just like the bride's veil as it swings back. You get married, you walk across the stepping stones to a champagne toast across the way. The veil comes down, and it's ready for the next wedding. So on a busy day, they do 11 to 10 weddings a day. One way, no going back. And because it's so long, the night wedding is very important. It's the most expensive wedding, so it had to look really spectacular in the evening too. So kind of close encounters of the marital time is what we say. 4,700 holes. Because it's in Japan, none of those leaked, and it's probably 5 or 6 years old now. So you can see the effect you get. You can actually see the hole in the screen and then the projection. Those rings, we're not quite sure why there are rings. They weren't there on the mock-up, but we told the client that they were representative of wedding rings. So off we go. This is a little project in Kumamoto in southern Japan. It's a part of the Art Polis architectural project there. It's a police box. Always in Japan, probably like in Asia, most of Asia too, very difficult to find the context. So lots of black and white here, black and white with a zebra crossing, black and white tram. We sort of picked up on that. But really the main clue was the police car. And you can see that we've picked up the police car with the red lights. On the inside, we get children to paint. It's actually changed now. So it's kind of a social police box. We're trying to get children not to be afraid of the police box. They can go in and they can draw on the inside of this. We're trying to give it some depth. It's on an island. It can be seen from 360 degrees, so it's kind of important that you could walk all the way around it. And then lots of there are nice things with architecture, just like those rings appeared with the wedding veil. These really fantastic shadows appeared too, which was a really nice bonus. Excuse me. Could I get a glass of water? Thanks. Has anybody heard of this brand? Does anybody know? Do you know what? Most children, most 14-year-old kids, don't know who Sony is. They know what PlayStation is. There's a very tiny Sony there. They have no concept what Sony is. So when Sony came to us a couple of years ago and said, you've got to help us, and we're still trying to help them, we spent a long time looking around all their divisions, and therein lied the problem. When you went to a Sony store, it didn't say Sony. It said Bravia, it said Cybershot, it said PlayStation, it said everything else but the name. So we decided that we should take everything else but the name away and just come up with a very simple store with one Sony logo in the store. And we wondered what was the heart of Sony. What was the essence of Sony? And I remember color like no other. The color reproduction is super important on a TV screen, also on their cameras. On their NEX camera, and this is not a pitch for Sony cameras, the color rendition is fantastic. And we thought, if you look at other computer stores around the world, they're very sort of gray and white, and we thought that we had to bring color into the environment. So this is the new Sony store, and color like no other. Color is the key thing. And in Asia, you know how they sell cameras. There's POP, there's all these things telling you how brilliant they are and how many megapixels. And in fact, you can't see the camera. So we found a system of tiles, standard tiles, 600 millimeters square, which can be hot swapped around in the store. You can bring the cameras to the front of the store for lunchtime. You can bring the PlayStations to the front of the store for when school's just out. So these things are really important. Here we've got a product, what's called a landing page. We have the product lineup, and we have a test area where you can test the lens onto a shooting object. But it's about being social here too. It's about social retail. This is a phrase that we're beginning to coin. Because you can buy all of this stuff online. You can buy it all on Amazon. It's about the experience in the store, which is really, really important, and how children interact. You cut customers of the future, people who don't know what Sony means. So here are a few shots of the store. It's about having fun. She had a pink top and she used a pink computer. Kids taking pictures, kids learning how to tag things within the store, kids having fun. It's almost like a science park in there. That was the key thing, that people should play and interact and get an experience they can't get from the internet. They want to go back to the Sony store. They want to see what the latest product is. Sony's brilliant at bringing new things out, whether it's the 3D screens or the 4K screens they've just brought out. There's something always new. For other companies, it takes them a year to put a camera on a tablet. No names. So everybody's having fun within the store. So it's key here to be social. We're working for Google in Japan. We're designing the interiors for their Japanese headquarters. It's about 1,600 staff. I can't show you all the photos, unfortunately. But here we're trying to pick up what is Google and what is Google in Japan, what is Japan, and can we bring some of the elements that we see every day in Tokyo, not the obvious ones, but can we bring some elements into the interior to bring it alive, to make it more local, to make it more friendly. And in Tokyo, a lot of concrete blocks are used, and they're perforated here to let the air through. They're used in walkways, in streets, walled gardens. And we try to take that theme throughout the store. We also picked up on other elements, graphic elements, and there are different zones within the store, within the floor plate. We're on 4 floors of Roppongi Hill, so we've got about 400 people per floor, and we're trying to pick up these different Japanese elements. So there's a component of wood here, and obviously the Japanese patterns come through. Then they have these mini kitchens, and we're trying to find fun ways to make people stop in a corridor and have a chat, have a coffee, go from there. And also finding key points to identify where you are on the floor, these memorable events as you walk around. It's a very deep plan building. It's about 5,000 square meter floor plate, which means from the window to the elevator core is incredibly deep, and it's kind of dark you can't see any windows there. So we've used a white floor for the semi-public areas, really just to try and bring the light level up and make you feel that you're not in the kind of the deep depths of the building. Again, picking up on lots of Japanese themes. This is Matsuri, which is the Japanese sort of parties and events, and you wear a happy coat. We're picking up all of the banding that you normally get on a jacket. We're picking up on the masks that children would buy at the events. If you can read hiragana, you can see that says Google. And we always love bathhouses in Japan. They're a very social place. People go to the bathhouse to have a chat with their neighbors, and they're sort of dying out. And we thought it'd be really nice in this communal area, which is almost a waiting area for a large conference room behind, could we pick up on this bath theme? If you go to a Japanese bath, there's always a picture of Mount Fuji, and it's painted, it's hand-painted on the tiles. So we found one of the only 2 painters that paint Mount Fuji who are left in Japan. This is Nakajima-san. And we asked him to paint a Mount Fuji. It takes him 5 or 6 hours. Here he is at the summit of Mount Fuji. Here he is in Shizuoka, painting the coast and adding away. But again, we turn this into a social event. So on Google Hangouts, all around the world, all the Google staff could see this event taking place. 2 or 3 cameras, and everybody's linked up, and they can see the event. So even within this office space, it's really, really important to try and make these events and make things social, make people remember the good time they had, and it really attaches them back into the office. is a finished article. So all of this work with Pachaccha Night, with our work with Sony, our work with Google, really prepared us very well for the next project, which I'm going to show you, which is called Daikanyama Tea Site, and I'm very pleased to say it won the Grand Award at the competition here, Design for Asia Grand Award. So thank you very much to all the judges who voted us in. So I'm going to run you through the project presentation. So welcome to Tokyo, welcome to Daikanyama area, and welcome to Tea Site. You may be able to begin to see why we're calling it Tea Site. It's a very historic area of Tokyo. It's one of the highest areas in Tokyo, and it's where the feudal lords had, the Asakura shoguns had some villas which are still there, and they're World Heritage buildings. And just behind them, Fumihiko Maki, Pritzker Prize architect in Japan, over 20 years built a really interesting retail concept, or retail area, called Hillside Terrace. And our site was just adjacent to that. It's a 2-hectare site. And it's a very beautiful area of Tokyo, lots of embassies there, and very green, quite unusual for Tokyo. Our site is tucked at the back where the pine trees are. And I have to introduce Mr. Matsuda, who's the client. Matsuda-san is the CEO of Tsutaya. Tsutaya is one of the biggest media groups in Japan. It has 1,400 CD, DVD, game shop, bookshops around Japan. He really is the Richard Branson of Japan. That's how I describe him. He's a self-made man from a single bookstore in Osaka in 1975 to this huge empire around Japan. Tsutaya also has a point card, like a loyalty card. Nearly half of the population in Japan have a T-point card. It's really, really amazing. And if you buy gasoline, you go to a convenience store, you can gain points and then buy other things with them. But it brings this loyalty back to Tsutaya. So at the briefing, we're thinking about this. And he said he wants to bring his brand forward, want to take a huge step forward away from these roadside kind of stores, going to build a flagship store. And it was very important how it's branded, but in that area, we're not allowed to use any signage whatsoever. There's a certain limit on the panels. How could we bring this tea to life? Well, you've probably seen it already. We sat there and made this little sketch. Almost as we sat listening to him talk, we couldn't resist the fact that we could actually build his logo. And being a self-made man, he couldn't resist choosing 77 invited architects. We made the final 11, and there are some very architectural schemes there. But we knew that the competition result was delayed because he was just fighting. And in the end, we won the project. We called it Tea Garden at that point, and over time it's become Tea Site. The site itself is divided into 3 lots, and we can't join the lots together. We can't make a single building. We had to make three buildings. So we built the 3 Ts on there. The base of the T here forms the spine of each of the buildings, so it's not just a graphic slapped on everybody. It's properly thought through, and all the services and the main structure is here. We're hanging the 2nd floor off of the top T, so there's a structural sense to this too. But he really wanted a single building, and how could we do that? Well, we drove this other axis through, this other spine through, which we've called Magazine Street, and you'll see that in a moment. This project was for a bookstore, for a music store, and for a movie store. And I'll explain why I said music and not CDs, and movies and not DVDs in a second. And he saw one building would be for books, one for CDs, one would be for music. And in the end, we pushed all of the bookstore on the ground floor and made it like a bookstore within a park. And off of the Magazine Street that ran all the way through, we hung these bookstores which came off. So like these little boutique bookstores, which you could really, they were almost defined by the architecture itself, but also by the type of books. We'd have design books here, photography books, cooking books in different zones. So almost like these mini bookstores which ran off of Magazine Street. And we tried to get the materials here. There's stone floor here, stone floor outside, you'll see later. And the idea is that this becomes a store as well in the summer, and this stays a small bookstore during the winter. To help drive the project, there's a cafe, there's a convenience store, and you can begin to see the scale as we put all the furniture and all the bookshelves in. You can see it's almost like a park. We've sort of brought the interior space, exterior space inside. The public space is actually inside the building. And this project is open from 7 in the morning till 2 at night. That's really interesting because he's suddenly doubled the length of time that the store is open. And we'll come back to that in a second. So you can see the teas, and you can see how majestically they sit behind the trees on the site. It's really easy for anybody who works for Tsutaya to explain the concept of the building. It isn't that difficult. And it's what's really nice, it's really fun. And it's really quite bold, but by stepping the buildings back, 1, 2, 3, you actually only see one of the T's at any one time. And so most people don't see the T to start with. They actually see the smaller T's that we've made this brise soleil wall around the top. They actually see that first, and some people see the big T. But it's this nice sort of play. But it's joyful, it's fun, and it solves his branding problem and makes the building very, very striking. Behind here is where we've got books, where we don't want light. So there's a reasoning for all of that, for all of the brise soleil that runs around the edge. So we began to connect the buildings together with this bridge that runs through. So there's almost a route on the top of the building too, which is connected. We've got these polystyrene steel bars. We kind of didn't want the bridge there, but we kind of had to have the bridge there. There's also a zoning issue. In fact, it's not a bridge. It's 2 balconies which push out, and they don't actually join. That's how we got around the regulations. So there's one of these slots which isn't filled, and after the building inspection, we put a little piece of steel across the 2. They kind of knew what we were up to. It's not a big secret. But it's actually a very, very nice element to walk through, which joins the stores together. So this brings me to Magazine Street that runs all the way through at the bottom. And this is the navigating element in the store. So where the photography books are, where the photography magazines are, it's where the photography books are. Where the car magazines are, it's where the car books are. They all peel off of this street. But what are we doing building this huge bookstore in an age where Barnes & Noble and Borders are all going bankrupt? What's going on, you know? What are we doing in the age of the tablet, in the age of digital transmission? We're building a physical bookstore. Why are bookstores bankrupt? What's going on? I mean, one of the reasons is they're really poorly curated. And one of the reasons we think that these big bookstores are dying is that the owners don't actually buy the books. They're just large warehouses with shelves, and the distributors push the books onto the shelves. And there's really no curation at all. Here, it's very heavily curated. There are 12 concierges which help curate each of the sections. We'll talk about that in a second. But this means that you're getting things, again, just like at Sony, you're getting things that you can't buy on the net here. Now, Tsutaya is a very large company, so you can buy books online. You can browse the whole bookstore from your browser, or you can browse and buy things in the physical space. So it's really interesting that a lot of the magazines here, as I say, you can't buy online. You've got to come here to find them. You're going to download Time. You're going to download Newsweek. You're going to download Wired and Monocle. But there's a lot of other stuff out there that's never going to be digitized. And the experience is different. You'll see upstairs in a moment that touching paper and feeling paper is really important. And browsing things you didn't know exist. You know, Amazon tries to tell me what I want, but it doesn't really know. And it's normally wrong. But here, I really do find things that I didn't know existed, and I'm interested to buy them. So within these spines, this is the Magazine Street, and obviously we've got the cross routes where the structure is and all of the services. We've made these much tighter spaces, like proper bookstores, and quite dark, with wooden ceilings and wooden floors. It's like Jimbocho, if you've been to Tokyo, the bookstore area there. And then in the corners, we open up the bookstore. There's a lot more light, and it's a much nicer place to stop and browse and read books. We designed all the lighting within the space. Again, it's how important it looks when you're from outside, especially in the evening as you drive past. And because we've got a lot of glass, we were dreading the client was going to start putting boxes and point-of-sale stuff, all that crap you see, against the glass. And is there some way we can stop that? So we thought, well, we'll stop that because we'll build a barrier. We'll build a bench all the way around any of the glass areas. And on that bench, we'll clip on lights and seats and reading positions. And it's been really successful. You can't get anything against the glass. But it's also caused a very social area for people to stop and browse, listen to DVDs, listen to CDs, read books. And as you can see, those browsing areas are really very cool. And we're merging digital and analog together. All of the shelves have a reader on them. All of the books have an RFID tag. So in theory, they know where any book is. I'm not going to tell you what's really happened. There's a lot of feedback. But the system's in place, and you can search for any book, as I say, at home. You can work out where it is in the bookstore. You can search for it on the iPad here, and it will print out a map or a description of where the book is, ready for one of the concierge to take you to the area, which I think is really interesting. We're not fighting, we're not shying away from it. But in the music section, we talk about music, we don't talk about CDs. They're the things that come in plastic covers for the youngsters here. And these are LPs. And we have a concierge here who looks after the music section. Now you think, well, he looks quite old. That's a really key point for this project. This project was built for premier age people. Premier age people is a kind of a new term, I think. So it's a bit younger than the silver generation. They're 50-year-olds. So I'm almost there. But it's a key thing. Tsutaya has decided to target this group because it's where the bell curve of the population is in Japan. Their kids have gone to university. They have a little bit more time. They have a little bit more cash. They've got second car. I was going to say second wife. But anyway, they've got some time. And they've got cash in their pocket. And so this whole project has been dedicated to them. And a lot of premier age people come. But what it's meant is that it's a very authentic store, it's very real, and all the young kids come because they think it's cool. They think it's cool to talk to the jazz sensei, the jazz teacher. It's cool to talk to the travel concierge. This guy used to work for NHK. He was a travel fixer for NHK, and he was making sure that the producers and the executives all flew around to Iceland or wherever they got to. He would do all the booking. He actually books a holiday for you. You can book a holiday. I think there's a slide in a second before my time's run out. So there's all these added services you can get within the bookstore too. This is Fuji-san. He's the guy that curates the car section. He has a fantastic car collection himself. And these people are in the store. You can have a relationship with them. You can chat to them. They know what you're looking for. You can go back if the book's not there. So it's a real key thing. You can't get that online. This is the travel section. You see Tsutaya Travel. They never miss a trick, this company. So they will book, and it's in the travel section. You decide you want to go to Italy. You start chatting to the guy about the Italian books, and he will softly try and sell you their services to book the whole holiday for you and make sure it runs smoothly, especially if it's related to a film or a book. They've got good relationships, and they can find out, make sure that you go to the hotel next to where Harry Potter was shot. So it's very, very interesting. It's just not a bookstore. We have a convenience store there, which we've designed. We have a Starbucks too, which we've designed. This at 1 o'clock in the morning is absolutely packed. And so there's plugs all below the counter. And it's becoming this third space. It's becoming a space, especially like in Hong Kong, like in Tokyo too, rents are extremely high. Do you really want to go home on your own, log on, download a movie, and watch it on your own? Why not go and browse in a public space, maybe meet some friends, maybe go home together? It's just an extension of your front room. It's this third space. And I think these are going to become more and more important, especially in Asia. I don't think the concept necessarily works in Europe or in London, but I think in these mega cities in Asia, I think it's an incredibly important format. People are encouraged to sit and browse, have a cup of coffee, but there's no pressure to sell. Within the center building, and I'm almost there, you've got the two staircases, which take you up to the top. So this is the film section, and this is movies, and this is what they call World Magazine Archive. He has 400 bound collections of magazines from Japan, from Asia, from all around the world, which you can sit and browse. It's really the heart of the space, and two staircases to take you up into the lounge. Here's the lounge space. So it's like an advanced hotel lobby. But again, you're encouraged to browse. From here, you can actually see Magazine Street running all the way through on the ground floor. But this is a coffee shop. It's a cocktail bar. You can go and have a martini there at 10 o'clock. That means that I tend to buy a book on the way out because I've had a couple, and I've seen a nice iPod cover in the stationery store. But this heart of the store is really, really important. It's a magnet for people to come in. But it's also a great place. Let me just go back one. It's also a great place to shop. So things within the cabinets are for sale. They might be, on the opening, in the opening month, there was a Frank Lloyd Wright book, which was a signed edition by him. There's a Picasso book or Picasso painting. Really great things, a couple of $1,000. So you buy a 700 yen cup of coffee. And when you sit down, you get the iPad, and you flip through to decide what you're going to eat or drink, and then there's an art selection. You can see what's on for sale. The books between are not for sale. They're for browsing, and it's a really interesting space. As I say, the store is open from 7 in the morning till 7 in the morning till 2 at night. So we have morning shopping, afternoon shopping, and night shopping. And all the lighting changes within the store. The lighting changes within the lounge too, for all the different occasions. So I encourage you, if you go to Tokyo, please go to Tsutaya. This is the type of things you can sit down and look through all the past global architecture magazines. Go and see 1960s Domus editions or Shinkenshku. This one was for sale. It's a book. It's 100 years old, and it's looking at prototype factories that were designed in Tokyo at that time. There's the last couple of slides. So this project was built after the events of 3/11, after the earthquake and tsunami, and is a testament to the power of Japan. This project, from start to finish, was 20 months with an earthquake sat in the middle. This is the day before the earthquake, and we were actually in this building when the earthquake struck. And I walked back to the office, got home, and only in the morning in Japan did you realize the extent of the tsunami. You had no real idea on TV what was going on. Only in the morning when the dawn broke. And then by 10 o'clock, the first nuclear power station exploded, the second one, and I decided to take my kids down to about 250 kilometers south of Tokyo. That was on Sunday morning, only to get a phone call Sunday afternoon from Mr. Masuda saying there was an emergency meeting back on site Monday morning. So as I'm driving back to Tokyo, everybody is streaming out of Tokyo, and I have to go back for this meeting. So I said, well, we're going to close down the office for a couple of weeks, find out, not sure what's happening. The French are they're flying in planes to take everybody home. And he said, but we can't. We've got to go on. This is important. This is important. I have 1,400 stores. There are 20 of which I don't know if they exist or not. 150 are badly damaged. I kind of got a sense of what's happening, but it's really important that Japan doesn't give up at this point. And we signed the contract, and we're partners in this. And if you want to go home, that's fine. But if you want to go forward, we'll remain partners. And the project got built, as I say, almost on time. We had huge difficulties because all the glass factories stopped in Japan because there was no electricity. We had to get the glass from China. The glass reinforced concrete factory was really badly damaged, and all our panels were damaged. Everybody worked incredibly hard to get the project finished. And it was a really amazing moment. So that concludes my talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark, for your very moving and inspiring presentation. And it's actually incredible. It made me thought about a couple of things, the role of the architect and the client. And in particular, the project with Matsuda as your client and yourself as an architect, curator, connecting yourself very much to social and human behavior, bringing different types of people together. How is your experience, I would say, especially informed by this disaster, help you rethink the process of design and creativity in Japan or post kind of tsunami?
There's been a big shift, actually, in the way people think about things. Everybody's a lot more honest. They're less focused on the look of design, I think. I think we're all focused on solving problems. everybody's aware they're not around forever. Most people have friends that were lost in the tsunami. There's a much greater sense of community and having fun, getting together and having a drink, not staying at home, not staying in your tiny apartment. And this project really sort of helped that, I think, at that time. And we were very surprised about the number of people and how many young people started coming out. And we chatted to people, and even staff in our office. Everybody realizes that your time on the planet is kind of short, you know. And I can say that through design, especially the work we're doing in Tohoku, design has played a really important part there to energize communities. People are building temporary houses or temporary meeting spaces. Toyoito's House for All is really important, but there are many young architects doing really, really great stuff there. Because the scale of the disaster there has really allowed all the universities in Japan to take a section of the coastline. I mean, it's 200 kilometers have been destroyed, and each university professor is taking an area and working with their students. It's really hands-on and practical. And I think that's been a real big change for Japan, you know, when everybody's been worried maybe a little bit too much about style and look and feel, and everybody's getting down to real practical things. I think Toyoito's House for All, it has a picture roof on it. Everyone's like, well, Ito-san, what are you doing putting a picture roof on it? Well, because it's the right thing to do. It's the most simple form. It's using the local carpenters, using the local materials. So it's been a really interesting shift for us all.
That's great. It's really important for your role as a design advocate, but also bringing different communities together, and especially Pachakucha and Super Deluxe has really helped build, I think, a new type of design movement and community. I want to open it up to the audience who have come to understand more of your methodologies, especially this incredible bookstore that's mixing different typologies and really reinventing the role of a bookstore. It's kind of like the new library. But can I ask anyone who has questions to stand up, and please stand up. And
I was fascinated by the respective roles that seem to be played in the T-site between you and the owner, and it seemed that the architecture design really helped shape the program as opposed to just being responsive to it. And I was wondering if you could describe your relationship with your client that sort of allowed you to, you know, obviate the use of windows and do all sorts of other things that seem to permanently shape the programming.
So the way it works working with Masuda-san is we have a weekly meeting. We still have weekly meetings a year after the project was complete. They're on Friday mornings. They're between 9 and 11 every Friday. And the whole team comes, 40 people, so 8 from our office, and all of his staff, the key people within the project, the concierge staff. The guy that runs the car park comes as well. And we have this discussion about what's going good, what's going bad, what junk they've put up on the wall and we want taken down in the week. But that started right at the beginning of the project, and a very open and flat conversation went on. We were always trusted as being the consultant. If there was a question about what's going on, well, these guys are the architects. They know what they're talking about. Let's go on. And we always deferred to him if he knew what he was talking about, a good reason for putting this some element within the store. But it's a really flat, horizontal playing field. But the fact that we had these weekly meetings is really important. And the fact that you're there with the president of the company and we're there as the architects. We don't send our staff there. We go and we have this brief but very powerful meeting. And it gave me a lot of faith in Japan because he has a lot of young people. These 40 people are probably all under 30. And it's about teaching them how to do business, how to do design. A lot of business conversations went on here. We were very open. We knew what their sales figures are. We know all of these things. We get a sense of what's working and what's not working. So that business part is really, really important within the project. And you compare it to other large Japanese electronics companies we work with, which are a lot slower, and you can see the dinosaurs within Japan. But you can also see that there is a great future for Japan as well, and a great spirit there, and this with the earthquake too. It was incredible to see how Japan worked. Rather long answer, sorry.
I'm sorry. Can you share with Japan whether that store, that unit, is actually making money?
Yes.
The question was whether the store is actually making money.
Yes, it's making money. I'm not saying it's paying down the price of the site, okay? That's a different thing. It was a very prestigious site in Tokyo. But in terms of the business model for the structure and for the business plan that's in place, yes, it's incredibly successful. And I know that Victor and Edmund and people have been there, and on a Saturday, you can't move. Doing really interesting things. So on a Sunday morning, between 7 and 9, the car park's not so full. Farmers market. So there's a really popular farmers market. And then by 9 o'clock, they're taking down all of the stores. So there's this curation of the building is so important. I think architecture really is only 50% complete when it's open. It's how you activate, it's how you bring people to the space. And we're really privileged that we're allowed to be a part of that process. I think that really helps, keep the building alive, keep people coming back.
That's great, Mark. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's really interesting with your social design, bringing back a new sort of value to design. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.